Welcome back to Ask Diz. I'm Diz, and the premise of this show is pretty simple. You ask, I answer your most pressing running questions. Let's get to it. Today's question comes from Tracy, and she asks, can you discuss the validity/necessity of the 10% rule, i.e. don't increase your mileage by more than 10% per week? Yeah, Tracy, my take on the 10% rule, more or less, is that, it's a good rule of thumb, but it's definitely not doctrine. It's definitely not something that I adhere to come hell or high water. It's not gospel. It's not immutable. It's not irrefutable. It's just a guideline. It's just kind of makes sense. Not a bad idea. So the premise of the rule, or the reason the rule is in place, little history, if you will, or a little physiology, or a little something. I don't know what it is. It's something. But the reason for the 10% rule is to just kind of help keep us as runners from biting off more than we can chew, from ramping up our training too quickly. So the idea is, if you don't increase your total weekly volume, the total number of miles you run each week, by more than 10% at a time, your odds of suffering some type of overuse injury, stress fractures, shin splints, plantar fasciitis, yada, 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 your odds of developing one of those injuries is decreased because you're not giving your system more than it can handle too quickly. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I mean, none of us want to be injured. So, ramping up slowly, ramping up gradually over time is absolutely a good idea. Absolutely what we probably should strive for. That said, is 10% like this perfect number? No. I mean, I know people that ramp up by less than 10% and still can wind up injured. I know people that get much more aggressive and ramp up a lot quicker. Sometimes what I do, and have no problems. It all depends on each person. It depends on your past level of fitness, both running and otherwise, your experience as a runner, your ability to listen to your body and recognize that, hey, I'm a little bit more fatigued, I got a little bit more soreness, maybe I should back off a little bit, your willingness to not adhere to just a strict this mileage, but being able to adapt and adjust and alter your number of miles based on how you're feeling, how things are going. So, do you have to stick to just 10%? Nah. Is it a good ballpark estimate to make sure that if the last several weeks you've been running 20 miles a week, a good increase would be, somewhere probably 1 to 3 or 4 miles to go from, 20 to 21 to 23, 24, something like that. That's probably okay. You just don't want to go from running 20 miles a week to 30 miles a week to 40 miles a week. Like, whoa! Tap the brakes, Tracy. Tap the brakes, everybody. So, when it comes to increasing your mileage, when it comes to climbing the ladder, adding more volume, you definitely want to err on the side of slow and gradual. Don't bite off more than you can chew. That's going to get yourself in trouble. And so if the best way to keep you in check is to adhere to the 10% rule, then adhere to the 10% rule. If you're disciplined enough to say, I'm going to bump up my long runs by a mile or two and then hold steady there, maybe bump up an easy run by a mile or two, then that's going to be fine. If it ends up being that you're bumping up by 12%, 16%, you're probably going to be okay. Just listen to your body. Don't be too impatient in trying to add more miles to your plate. All right, we've got plenty of time. Running's not going anywhere. So build up nice and slow, nice and gradual. It's going to help you to not be sore, less likely to be injured, less likely to just get burnt out and kind of hate running, which is something I've seen happen before when people ramp up their mileage too quickly. It's like, God, this sucks. Screw it. I'm done. And we don't want that. So, 10% rule, more like guidelines, right? Isn't that the line from Pirates of the Caribbean? Like, it's less of a rule, more of a guideline. That's kind of how I see the 10% guideline, if you will. So hopefully that helps, Tracy. And if you have any other questions, please let me know. Ask Diz at dizruns.com is the email address to submit your questions for a future episode. And obviously anybody that's watching, anybody that has any type of running related questions, I'm here. I got nothing better to do than answer your questions. So send them to me askdiz@dizruns.com. You can send an email, or better yet, get out your phone, get out your device, get out your laptop, whatever, anything that's got a microphone in it, record a voice memo and send that to me as an attachment to the same email address that's somewhere on the screen or down in the description, wherever it is, askdiz@dizruns.com. Send me your questions and I'll be happy to answer them in a future episode of Ask Diz. So that is it for today. 10% rule, it's a good guideline, but don't freak out if you increase by 11 or 12 or 13% at some point. You're gonna be fine, promise. So until next time, y'all take it easy. Deuces.